Hey everybody, Edo here, and today's video is gonna be an interesting one. I don't know if it's because I finally got access to the Great Pottery Throwdown Season 6, or if it's because we just launched Sunrise at the Studio, which is a pottery-themed game, but I was thinking about all of the reality TV shows that are about making things that I love as a game maker and actually feel enrich my game making by watching them. And so this is actually a little bit of these are 5 great shows to watch, you should check them out, but also a little bit of a conversation on why I think it actually is good and beneficial to see people who are crafting in some form or another in other fields, in other ways. It's super interesting to me. And admittedly, I like reality shows in general. It doesn't have to be about making things. And I've always been interested in a board game type show. In fact, I perhaps am one of the few people that have been on a board gaming reality TV, it wasn't TV, I guess YouTube show. I was on Tabletop Deathmatch. But that one was more of a look at creators and games that were already made and taking them through sort of a multi-stage judging process than it was sort of the do challenges and be creative on the spot piece of it. And I think that's what is so exciting. So let me just talk about these shows. And if you watch TV, that's great. These are on different streaming services. And if you don't like reality TV or these types of shows, you're probably not going to suddenly like it. But if you haven't seen any of them and you make games, I think it's worth it. So without further ado, so number 1, as I mentioned, the Great Pottery Throwdown. This is a fantastic show about pottery making. I've watched it with my wife, who's a ceramicist, and a lot of this was the inspiration for her getting into it, and again, Sunrise at the Studio, but they bring together all these shows. Well, I don't know if it's 10 contestants, 12 contestants, but a bunch of folks into this traditional pottery, Trevor, I don't remember, pottery location where in the UK, that was the heart of pottery manufacturing, however many years ago. Actually, I should know more because we visited the actual location to where the show was filmed because we like it that much. But anyway, they start and they're doing wheel throwing and a variety of different challenges and making different things, some big, some small. There's 2 things that strike me as so interesting about that show. And these are, all of the shows that I'm talking about are wholesome and loving and caring and have a really positive vibe to that from my perspective, shown in different ways. But what I think is so compelling is seeing in the pottery ones the strain and work on all these different types of pottery, but the thought that has to go into the design, the planning, but then also the steps in the process, the drying, the glazing, the kiln, the firing, how each of those impacts their work differently, and they have to think about how things will change their size over the process and shrink as they dry, how glazes might paint but look, whether to do details with edges or with color. It's super fascinating and it's super interesting thinking about the manifestation of these ideas into these physical goods and the basically the physical requirements of how the chemistry and the different elements mix together, and how each person through their own craft style and pottery goes through and goes about it. Super fascinating. The other thing that stands out is one of the judges, Keith Brymer Jones. Huge dude, incredible potterist, ceramicist, pottery maker, is an emotional dude. And he gets choked up and cries because of delight and joy and seeing somebody try and their effort and the care in which they put into something, and for the love of the craft, and if it's fit for purpose, and the weight. But you see somebody who's truly, regularly, emotionally moved by craftsmanship, and it's amazing. It's amazing, it's inspiring, and it's just for the love of, for the joy of the art, and it's just inspiring. Inspiring in game making. Inspiring to be the care and effort is beautiful. The process is beautiful. The results are beautiful. The delight people have when they play with things is beautiful. And dude just embodies it. It's amazing. So highly recommend that show. You get 5 seasons on, I think, HBO or Max or whatever it's called right now. The other seasons are pretty hard to find, but 5 seasons are great, every one of them. And this is going to run the gamut. Switching gears, Next in Fashion. Next in Fashion is a Netflix show. It's like 2 seasons. It feels a whole lot like Project Runway. They get a bunch of fashion designers to come in, and basically each episode they have to put on a runway show. Different themes, different looks, different ideas, but they're all just creating, like it culminates in like a full thing, but they're creating a look, an outfit on some parameters that then gets walked on a runway with all the other contestants' outfits. What stands out to me on this one is this one has a lot of phasing with like designing on paper, thinking about it, the materials, the colors as they're bringing it through. But I think the perspectives, they have a lot of rotating judges and rotating challenges, and it really shows the sort of artistic and beauty side of sort of garment planning, and then the craft of how it falls and sits and what you need to think about when you're putting it together. And then really the different sensibilities and designs of people who specialize in certain things and how they stretch themselves to do other things. Like people who are really good at one type of design and are forced to challenge themselves. Like they do menswear and now they have to do some women's wear outfit or this or that, or they're like really into latex or like whatever. Or like, and a lot of positivity, but it's just this, in this one, what stands out to me is they're really crafting to the eye of the beholder more. I think at Pottery and a number of these other ones, they're making something, but it's less commercialized. It's less about the judges. They're working on it, and then people, but it's all like they're just trying to do their best in the Pottery one, and they're like forced on time. In Next in Fashion, that what is fashion? What is trending? What is the look? What is the it? What is the market? What does the market want? Is such a driver here. And how do you translate your work to the market, the audience, the people seeing the runway show? And to me, that really connects into the other side of game making, which is about thinking about who the product is for, but the competitive landscape. What's big right now? Are roll rights still big? Is that old news? What about legacy games? What are people thinking? What's trending? How do you fit it? The time frames are all different because manufacturing take a long time, but really understanding that audience perspective and the market perspective, I think is a big deal, and that comes through in that show in a really big way. And so, yeah, Netflix. Netflix does a lot of these. I watch a lot of Netflix, but another one is Glow Up. This is 5 seasons. This is a makeup show where people are doing MUAs. Makeup artists come in and they do makeup on whatever the contest is or the challenge on for ad shoot or like play or movie series or whatever. They like go in to do makeup. Sometimes it's like prosthetics. Sometimes it's just like about beauty or big looks or bold or just eyeliner or whatever. But they bring all these individuals, and this one has a lot of interesting elements, but one of which is the way that people have to both do a lot of paint on others as well as painting on themselves. There's a lot of like, I'm going to do makeup on myself. It's like a big part of that show, which, I don't connect with, I don't do fashion. Like I don't make clothes. I don't really, my wife throws pottery, but I don't throw pottery. I don't put on makeup. Like I don't experience what they experience, but watching that translation of art onto face, and not only the other person's face, but their own face, it's like really interesting, really powerful, and just inspiring to think about how they do it and how they put it together. It's really interesting. The correlation to gaming is a little harder, but I think that it really speaks to translation of identity into what you're doing. And I think that's really important in board games. So who you are, and then what the client wants and what you want and how you express it is big. They also have an interesting flow where there's like a group competition. It can be like one-on-ones or in teams, but like more of like what you typically see a challenge. Then they have, that's like the baseline. Then they have 2 losers who are like in the seat or in the hot seat or whatever, and then everyone else, and they go through a thing where they have to do this painting on themselves, or sometimes it's another makeup artist, but it's like a solo effort that's really big. And then there's like, did you beat the seat? Basically, did the people who were in the red seat, did they do good enough to exit out, or did somebody else do so bad that they get knocked out? But then from that stage, they move to a final one where they take the 2 like lowest artists or losing artists, and they go into a room and they give them twins, and they give them like the most, I don't want to call it basic, but like a simple makeup thing, like an eyeliner or a shadow or smoky eye or whatever. I don't know what I'm talking about. And they have to do it on twins in like 15 minutes, and then they get judged on precision and it stands out. And one of the judges, there's a lot of emotion on it, but there's like big ding dong or like you nailed it. I think those moments can be inspired by games when you're making them, and thinking about, I don't know, I just feel like there's opportunities for big, bold moments in games that speak to people, and I think the way the makeup speaks to people is a big deal, and that identity piece is really strong in Glow Up. Number 4, if you haven't seen it, is Blown Away. It's on Netflix. I think it's 4 seasons. They've done some holiday ones. This is the glass blowing show. It's also like, if you've ever seen Forged in Fire, it's another good one where there's like the blacksmithing show. But the glass blowing one's just nuts. So like, you're just like, glass blowing is so intense and so delicate and so hot. It's just like, and the craftsmanship and again, it's just looking at the process, the tools, the steps, the elements, the components, the flow, the heat in this case, and the cooling, and what can you do with light and bending, and how do you represent creative? Like, I don't know. It's getting a little harder to draw that line to what you're going to do in a board game, but I guess that one just stands out in terms of awestruck at the process and technical challenge and mastery of what they're doing and how hot it is. That was just like, that's hard work. That is one, and I think Forged in Fire fits that category, where you're like, wow. Blown Away is much more about the art look. If you're not familiar with Forged in Fire, it's not from this list, but that's like a decades-old show, and that one's really cool if you're into different types of blades and knives and swords and axes, and like they have you like show them using it, and like that's a really cool show. But Blown Away was one that came up on my list. Okay, so number 5, the last one here, is Making It. If you haven't seen Making It, it's with Amy Poehler and Nick Offerman, and it's crafts people, and people making like, I don't want to say arts and crafts or like home craft. It's just like people working with everyday objects and things that you'd find around the house, and like you make crafts to make party gifts and flyers and paint sheds and throw in a party, like all sorts of like things where you like wanna, there's like a purpose for it and a flair, and they use every craftsperson use all sorts of materials, and it's like everyday at-home stuff. It's all like prototypes, really. It's like the prototype inspiration show, but it's so much fun. It's so good-natured. The hosts are very funny, and they're like winning patches, and it's really down to earth. Like most of these other ones are like British-based, like they're not based in the United States, because US ones tend to be more like, there's only one winner, you're only going to make this one. But Making It is great. Great. Baking It, which is a fall off of Making It's also pretty funny, but there's lots of baking shows. I don't know where Baking It falls into baking shows, but Making It is absolutely worth your time. Adore that show. I was trying to figure out if we like saw it on Hulu or something. Apparently it's available on Prime now. I'm not sure, but really enjoy that series. And so, I don't know. And that one was like, look at all these cool things you could make with stuff. And those could be used for games. And that's a really interesting solution. Oh, look at that. Could you make a miniature that way? Like, super cool stuff. Super cool. I was just, and I guess it's a reflection on me for watching perhaps too many reality TV shows. There were some other like honorable mentions, of which, and to be clear, I've seen every season of all these shows. If you're not familiar with it, Rhythm and Flow on Netflix, which is a rap battle type thing with Cardi B and a bunch of other, but she stands out, is just cool and great. And again, this is like, it's about, everyone's writing, it's like a knockout contestants, each one coming with a new rap or a process, or they're working with a different producer. But you just learn about the process and way in which that kind of work gets done, how you're creative, how you think about the, like the emotional journey and what the story you want to tell and how you bring it into writing and then performing it. I would say, if anything, it's heavily performance. So you actually don't see as much of the craft in the making of it. They're like a little bit more of the personalities and the performance side of it as it goes. But fascinating and entertaining and musically cool. There's Interior Design Masters on Netflix. This is about designing houses or shops, and they like go in and they all have a challenge to like design this thing or redo this room or redecorate a college dorm or whatever. And again, that one's just really interesting because that one is often very structural, design, layout, componentry. It's like interior design, obviously, but that one is really neat. And then the last one I'll call out is Project Bakeover. This is like a Canadian show where the hosts go from bakery to bakery, and there's some in the States too, helping like a failing business. It's like Kitchen Nightmares, but with bakeries and like with nice people. Well, Gordon Ramsay's nice, but like in his own way. And that one's really great because it's a split between how do you make the business better, how do you make the space better, and then there's like, we're going to create 3 dishes inspired by what you did, but we'll make it better. So it's like cooking show meets business meets interior design. It's got that feel of Kitchen Nightmares vibe, but like, again, in a much more positive space. And that one's great. I mean, this is like the tip of the iceberg for shows. There's like so many of these, but I don't know. I think these ones are great. I definitely recommend it. And I think I really did get more from it, seeing how creators and makers in other spaces operate and do their thing and build and make. Most of these aren't as, games typically involve more people and groups. I think it's part of the challenge of trying to do a reality show on board games. But I don't know. Anyway, thanks for watching this one. Hope you enjoyed it. Later. Bye. Hey everybody, Edo here, and thanks for watching Gaming with Edo. Reviews over here on this playlist, League and Insider videos over here on this one. Subscribe, share, all that good stuff. But most importantly, play some great games. Thanks. Bye.